This afternoon, after lunch, I was walking around in our woodland, and then I come across with this cherry plums, and there are so many cherry plums fall down because of fully ripened. Uh, and then I was reflecting that I saw so many cherry plums dropped, but why I didn't have any wisdom dropped like Newton or like even this Charles Darwin. uh So must be my mind or I am must be very dull, or must be haven't got this paramita, the perfections that I didn't accumulate from the past. As a result, when I see these dropped, all what I thought was, oh, I can eat it. Thinking of only eating rather than thinking of why this fall down. It's like Newton when he saw this apple dropped, and he thought, why this apple dropped? And that's how he became father of a science. And at the same time, after searching for this different, studying all different things in the world, Charles Darwin saw this little bird in two islands, the same bird but acted differently. One bird in one island has got a long mouth and vegetarian, and the same bird in another island has got a very short mouth but not a vegetarian, and that actually led him to investigate, and that's how he became the famous writer and a new chapter in the revolution or evolution, not revolution, evolution. And that actually changed the entire thoughts that people normally had at the time. And that's how he began a person who challenged the theology at that time. And he wrote this what's called evolution theory, a theory of evolution, and that actually changed to look at the things that we are ancestors of a chimpanzee, a monkey. We are a monkey's descendants, and that was unacceptable for so many theologians. And then the same question when it was asked to Dalai Lama, and Dalai Lama said, it's perfectly fine because Tibetan people believe that the Tibetan people are a descendant of the monkeys. So that was the evolution theory that the Darwin invented. Um, Actually, 2-3 weeks ago, we went to Darwin's grandfather's house, and how his grandfather was inventing and experimenting on different things, and that's why probably he got the genes from his grandfather and become a very important person in the history. A similar thing to the Buddha when he was the prince. When he was the prince, he was living in a luxurious life, nothing to worry, everything was provided. He even had 3 different houses for 3 different seasons, for the summer, for the winter, for the rainy season. So those days, or even now in South Asia, 3 seasons, not like here we have 4 seasons. And then he didn't have to come out from these palaces. He was fed well, and he had entertainments, and and even he explained saying that he was wearing a fine clothes, fine foods, and so on, and didn't see any suffering at all in his life. And suddenly he noticed that there is old age, sickness, and a death. Now the legendary says that he wanted to go out. He wanted to go out from the palace, and then he saw the first sign was the old man, second was sick man, and third the dead man, and fourth is a holy man. And then he decided to, he questioned about it, why we have to get old, why do we have to get sick, why do we have to die? And while he was contemplating, and he found that this holy man must have some answers for it. So this is a legend. In the meantime, the Buddha, at that time he was the prince, he was contemplating from the discourses that appeared that actually he was contemplating having seen the people's changing, old age and sickness and death. Then he questioned, and then people, he questioned that we always have to get old, get sick, and get died. And then we are doing things to reborn again, to get old, sickness, and death. So cycle. So vicious cycle, this continuous cycling in the samsara again and again. Then he questioned that there must be a way out. There must be a way. So that was the reason he left the palace, and that's how led him to be the Buddha. Led him to be the Buddha. And now that this enlightenment, it's not about searching for the light. It is not about searching for the divine blessings. It's about the self-actualization or self-understanding, realization. Now, this is quite interesting that the Buddha, despite he found this reality and then he taught this to other people for the good and happiness, he thought, for it to, he thought that it is for the good and happiness for the people, human beings, and that's why he thought. For 45 years. And after he thought that, he didn't claim that it must be taken as exact truth. He said that you should not take it merely because I have said. You should not take it because this is what the Buddha said. You must ask the question. You must investigate in it. And then, after thoroughly investigating, then take it as the reality, if that's the true reality. Now, this is a very interesting concept. So the reality, actually, if we look at it, we cannot pinpoint as the reality. We cannot hold as the reality. We cannot write it down and claim that this is the reality, because reality cannot be represented again and again, because always new things, always changing, always the present. A new present is new thing, new present is a new thing. So that's why the Buddha, although presented all his teachings, we have to remember that these were the words and that he tried to explain the teachings, the reality pertaining to itself. Now we have to make sense of it. We have to understand the reality that he was trying to point it out. And that reality, we individual have to find it out. It's like entire teachings of the Buddha is like a signpost, only pointing to the truth. And that is not the truth yet. Signpost is not the truth. That's why as a Buddhist or as a practitioner, we have to be very careful of claiming one or another. The moment when we claim that I got the truth, the moment when we say that I know the truth, actually we are deceiving ourselves. That's why Buddha said that when you know that you don't know, you are the wise one. Moment when you realize the reality pertaining to itself, then you won't be claiming that you know the entirety of it, because this is always changing. So that's why the practice of a meditation is something that we are not searching for new thing. We are not searching for or confirming what it was said by the Buddha, but it is the realization of the reality that is taking place here and now. And that actually checking whether what the Buddha said is in line with it or not. Whether it's in line with it or not. So that's how we should be practicing Buddhist path. So with that, we are not holding on to so-called the concept of the truth, and in the meantime we don't have the concept of this confusion. And there is no identity, holding of this, holding of that, I am this, I am that. The moment when we lose these identities, the moment when we lose everything and come back to the nature and knowing things every moment, one by one at the time of the present moment, and we realize that we cannot represent this truth for the second time. It's like a Copernicus says that you can't jump into the water twice. So like that, the truth is always new. And that's why I normally use the word of a knowledge or whatever new things happening in every moment. Anything that's happening in this moment, that's new. And when we know that new, that becomes I know this moment. And as soon as we say I know, that actually the knowledge that you have known, so you knew it. And then when you refer that new things that you have recorded or have known, actually that's the knowledge that you have known. It's already past. And what you are describing is the past in the present tense, in the present moment. And the reality actually is the present moment, that you are alive here, having a breath, and you are talking, or you are thinking, or you are walking, or you are doing things. So that's the reality. We don't need to worry about what had happened. What did I do? What was the past? We don't need to worry at all. The moment when we worry about it, we try to convince ourselves that that was the truth, and I am holding that truth. Or that was a confusion, and you try to solve that confusion in the past while you are in the present here. So that's why the Buddha's teachings is something that we have to dive into and practice and see whether that reality in line with these teachings or not. So that's why Buddha said, do not take it merely because it's in the scripture. Do not take it merely because it is a tradition. Do not take it merely because my teacher has said so. If you remember, I told the story that before Buddha passed away, he invited all the monks to question in his teachings. What is there any question or any doubts that they had in the teachings of the Buddha. So you're allowed to question and then investigate and then find the true reality, and which is always in the present moment. So that's why these teachings of the Buddha based on everything is changing. Knowing that change actually leads us to find freedom, and we realize that there is nothing, I can take it as a permanent substance or entity. So that's why although we can't be a Newton or a Galileo or a Charles Darwin, at least following this path that the Buddha laid, and he questioned on all this sickness and death and got enlightenment. So this is our chance and opportunity to question ourselves and then get knowledge and insight into it, so that eventually we may be able to free ourselves and liberate it.